G'day and yasas. This is the Home Barista. Today, you're going to learn how to make a great tasting Freddo Cappuccino just like the ones they make in Greece. So perhaps you've been to Greece in the last few years. You may have noticed that the Greeks drink a particular beverage that is usually a Freddo Cappuccino or a Freddo Espresso. They also drink frappe, which is the case for the last 50 or 60 years, but for the last about 10 to 20 years, Freddo Cappuccino and Freddo Espresso are the most popular coffee beverages over there. And perhaps you've tried to make it at home, but it just doesn't quite taste the same, does it? Well, let's see if we can improve on that. So what do we need to make a great Freddo Cappuccino? Well, for starters, number one, you need a double shot of your favorite espresso. And it doesn't matter if it comes from a nice little machine like this one, Gaggia Classic, which makes great coffee, or an espresso capsule or any other kind of pod espresso machine. As long as it's an espresso, a double espresso, you like it, you're happy with the taste, that is your starting point. The next item you need is some skimmed milk or some low-fat milk. With full-fat milk doesn't work quite as well. We have also tried things like almond milk. That also doesn't quite work because we can't get the consistency, the milk to turn into cream, which sits on top of the espresso. So you can only use low-fat milk. The third thing that we need is a milkshake machine, because we're going to use that to stir the ice in the Freddo and also to make our low-fat milk into a cream-like substance. The next thing that we require is, of course, some ice cubes, and lots of them. Then we need to find ourselves a aluminium or other metallic container which we will put into the freezer so that it freezes up, because that is going to help us turn that low-fat milk into a thick cream. If you have the milkshake machine, you can use the container from there. If not, please find a container that's metallic or aluminium and stick it in the freezer. And last but not least, if you drink your coffee with sugar, you need some sugar, and any kind of sugar will do. Personally, I prefer brown sugar because they say it's a little bit healthier, so that's what I go for, but I don't usually use sugar unless I've got a really bitter very dark roast bean. Alright, so let's get started then. What's the first thing that we do? Well, the very first thing that we need to do is get that metallic container and stick it in the freezer. Wet it a bit under the tap so it's a little bit moist, and then put it in the freezer for 2 or 3 hours until it freezes. That is going to help us turn that low-fat milk into cream, and that's very important. Without this step, it's not even worth attempting to make the foam because it's not going to be thick enough. So grab your container, stick it in the freezer, and 2 or 3 hours later, come back for the next step. The next step involves, of course, extracting the coffee from the machine. So as you can see here in this 2016 model Gaggia Classic, I am extracting a double shot of espresso. The particular bean that I'm using is something called a Island bean. It's a blend. It's 100% Arabica, and it's a medium roast. I found in my experience that when I use a roast that's too dark, the actual taste is a little bit bitter. However, dark roasts are actually quite good when you're using lots of creams, and maybe you might use little caramel, little flavors, and things like that. Then you need the bitterness to punch through all that cream so that you can actually taste the coffee. But otherwise, for this particular use, the Freddo Cappuccino, you need a mild or medium roast bean. If you don't have an espresso machine, you can use capsules, Espresso or some other brand of your favorite capsule, or you can use a pod as well. So once you've extracted the double shot, it should be about 35 grams, put it into a container and add the sugar. Usually I put 1 teaspoon of brown sugar, and sometimes, depending of course on the actual taste of the espresso, I use no sugar at all. So put in the sugar of the desired quantity and give it a bit of a stir. Once you've done that, place 4 ice cubes in the container, and you can use the milkshake machine in order to cool down the mixture. Don't froth it too much, because that's going to create a very light froth on top of the actual liquid, and it's not really what we're looking for. So 3 or 4 times, give it a bit of a whirl, just enough so that it feels cold to the touch, the actual container, because of the ice cubes. When it does feel cold to the touch, then it's ready. The next step is to grab your long glass and fill it halfway with ice cubes. Pour the coffee mixture into that long glass and just put it aside for the moment, because now we will start on the actual cream. To make the cream, let's go to the freezer, take the container. It should be nice and frozen. Again, if it's not frozen, please put it back in there and let it freeze, otherwise it's not going to work. Okay, so grab the frozen metallic container and put in about 1/4 of a cup of low-fat milk straight onto the milkshake machine. Don't let it sit out there, because it's going to warm up and it's not going to have the same effect. So whack it on the milkshake machine, and then you can let that work its little magic for a while, for 3, 4 to 5 minutes, as long as it takes. As it's working, as you can see here, you can hear the difference in the machine as it struggles. It creates the cream, and it makes it thick, which is exactly what we want. If you've frozen your container, you're using low-fat milk, and it's not getting the thickness, you're not getting the thickness out of this little machine, then the machine is most likely not powerful enough. Okay, you can't really use those handheld little machines that they use to make the frappe sometimes. That doesn't really work as well. The more powerful machine that you get, the better it is. This particular Breville model was picked up for about $35, so it wasn't expensive. Get out there and get yourself one of these. It's a good investment if you like to have Freddo cappuccinos. If you've tried these and the consistency is still not as what we want in terms of its thickness, you can try putting 2 or 3 ice cubes in the container while it's in the milkshake machine, because that helps it cool the mixture a bit, and that might help make it a bit thicker. Okay, so after you've done that, it's ready. As you can see here, what I'm doing now is I'm pouring the thick now cream, previously low-fat milk, on top of the espresso on ice. Okay, and it is slowly pouring down there on top of the espresso, and it's nice and thick. And that's the trick. The trick is for this cream to stay on top of the mixture, because it shouldn't be like milk. It shouldn't go down there. It shouldn't get mixed with the coffee, because as you're sipping it, you need to sip it from the top downwards, so that you can get the taste of the cream separately, and then followed by the taste of the coffee, so that you can really enjoy that combination. The finishing touch, of course, is the cinnamon, the classic cinnamon that we Greeks like to use on top of this Freddo cappuccino. So sprinkle some cinnamon on it, throw in a straw, and there you have it. Voila, a beautiful Freddo cappuccino. So if you've tried the steps that we spoke about today and you can't get it right, drop me a comment in the below, and I'll respond to it. Feel free to experiment with the different types of coffee, because that makes all the difference. If you really enjoy your coffee, there'll be other episodes uploaded, because coffee is a bit of a passion of mine. I have several shots every day. I experiment with different beans from different parts of the world. Lately I've been looking into experimenting with Guatemalan beans. I've tried Kenyan, Ethiopian, Indian, Brazil, Colombia, etc. and I would love to do episodes on my thoughts of the tastes from all these coffees from all around the world. Thank you very much for your time, and if you've taken anything away from this, please give it a like and subscribe. There will be additional episodes coming up. Thank you very much.